The galaxy had known peace for centuries, but peace could only last so long. The Exarathian Empire, a vast and powerful force that controlled over half of the galaxy, had set its sights on Earth. A species that had only recently discovered space travel was now the target of the most feared empire in the universe. On Earth, life went on as usual. People went to work, kids went to school, and everything seemed normal. But deep in space, the Exarathian fleet was making its way to the Sol system, home to the blue planet known as Earth. The Exarathians had already conquered countless worlds, wiping out civilizations that dared to defy them. Earth, a small, relatively young civilization, was no different. The Exarathian Emperor Valzeth, the ruthless leader of the empire, sat in his massive command room, surrounded by his top generals. He knew that Earth had no chance against their mighty fleet. After all, no civilization had ever stood up to the Exarathians and survived. The Emperor's eyes gleamed with cold confidence as he prepared his speech. A fleet of over 200 warships, the Third Fleet, began its approach to Earth. Their weapons were charged, and their ships were ready to attack. The Empire's soldiers, some of the fiercest warriors in the galaxy, were eager to invade Earth and claim it for their emperor. As the fleet approached, Valzeth issued a simple message to Earth's leaders. His voice boomed through every communication channel across the galaxy. To the people of Earth, we, the Exarathian Empire, have come for your world. We demand your immediate and unconditional surrender. Submit to us, or face your destruction. The galaxy had heard such messages many times before. Civilizations had fallen one by one, bowing to the overwhelming power of the Empire. But this time, something was different. On Earth, the message reached every corner of the planet, from the farthest villages to the grand cities. People sat in front of their screens, shocked by the broadcast. Leaders of the United Terran Command, UTC, the United Government of Earth, gathered in their headquarters. For the first time in history, they were faced with a threat that could destroy everything they had built. The room fell silent as the leaders stared at the massive screen, showing the Exarathian fleet in space. But then, a single officer, General Maria Edwards, stood up. She was a strong woman, known for her calm and quick thinking. With a stern look on her face, she turned to the other leaders. "We won't bow down. We may not be as powerful as they are, but we're not afraid to fight for our freedom." The leaders agreed. Earth was not going to surrender. They had been building their defenses in secret for years, preparing for a day like this. The United Terran Command had known that someday a threat like this could come, and now, the time had come to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. General Edwards spoke into the communication system. "To the Exarathian Empire, this is Earth. We will not surrender. You have one warning. Turn back. This is your only chance. If you continue your advance, you will face the consequences." The words were simple but powerful. The message was clear. Earth was not going to be intimidated. The Exarathians had sent a warning, but now, humanity was sending one back. It was a warning that no one had expected. The Exarathian fleet paused for a moment. On Valzeth's command ship, there was a brief silence as the message was received. Then, the Emperor's laughter echoed through the room. He found it amusing that a species so young, so fragile, would dare challenge the power of the Empire. "A foolish gesture," he muttered. "They think they can stand against us." But even Valzeth knew that this was not something to ignore. Humanity had never been tested, and the Exarathian Empire had no idea what it was dealing with. On Earth, the general public could only wait and watch. Some were filled with fear, unsure of what would happen next. But others, like General Edwards, were filled with something else: determination. Earth had survived countless challenges before. They would face this one the same way, together. The countdown to the inevitable began. The Exarathian fleet continued its approach, but the people of Earth stood united. The quiet hum of their advanced technologies and weapons built over the years was now ready. The world had no idea what the future would bring, but they knew one thing for sure. Earth was not going to go down without a fight. The challenge had been thrown down, and the Empire would soon learn that humans were not as weak as they thought. The stage was set for a confrontation like no other in the galaxy. The Exarathian Empire's fleet loomed on the horizon of the Sol system, its massive ships casting long shadows across space. The hum of their engines filled the void as they advanced toward Earth. The Third Fleet, the most powerful force in the Empire, had only one mission: to break the resistance of the upstart humans and bring their world to heel. Emperor Valzeth's voice echoed across the command bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, as he looked out at the fleet. "Prepare to make an example of Earth," he ordered, his tone filled with cold assurance. "This will be no different from the countless worlds we've conquered. Their resistance will be crushed beneath our might." The fleet's warships glinted like sharp blades in the darkness of space, their weapons primed and ready. The invasion had begun. Back on Earth, however, things were very different. The world had been shaken by the Emperor's message, but they hadn't panicked. Instead, the people of Earth came together, as they always did in times of crisis. The United Terran Command, UTC, had been preparing for this moment for years, knowing that one day their world might face a threat like this. At the UTC headquarters, General Maria Edwards stood in front of a large map of Earth and the surrounding space, her eyes fixed on the incoming Xarathian fleet. She had been the one to send the message to the Empire. She had warned them, but now the time had come to back up those words. She knew that Earth's survival depended on this moment. "We will not bow. We will not break." The words echoed in her mind as she turned to the other officers in the room. They were calm, focused, determined. They had all trained for this day. It wasn't just about winning the war. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity would not be a footnote in history. They would not fall to any invader. "We've got one chance to prove ourselves," General Edwards said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "If we don't act quickly, Earth will be lost." The UTC had built a secret defense network, hidden beneath the surface of their planet, where only a handful of people knew of its existence. It was a technology far beyond anything the Xarathians had ever encountered, a weapon unlike any other. The rest of the galaxy thought humanity was still a young species with little to offer. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. As the Xarathian fleet neared, the tension on Earth grew. People in cities across the world watched the skies, unsure of what to expect. Some feared the worst. Some had already begun to prepare for the inevitable. But most were waiting to see what the humans would do. The world's leaders had sent their final message to the Xarathians. "Turn back. This is your only warning." And now, humanity was waiting for the response. The next few hours would be crucial. General Edwards had called upon every resource, every asset available to the UTC. The world's most advanced ships, long kept in secret, were now being activated and deployed. Earth wasn't just preparing to defend itself, it was preparing to fight back. On the other side of the galaxy, the Xarathian fleet moved forward with the confidence of an empire that had never known defeat. The vast majority of their ships were larger, more advanced, and better armed than anything humanity had ever dreamed of. The Emperor knew that Earth's people were no match for his forces. As the fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, Valzeth's generals sent him daily reports, each one more confident than the last. Earth was a young civilization. It had no true military power. Its forces were no match for the Empire's superior technology. The Xarathians were certain of their victory. But there was one thing they hadn't accounted for: the human will to survive. General Edwards and her team had spent years studying the Empire's tactics, their technology, and their strategies. They knew what the Xarathians would expect. And that was exactly why they had been working on something far more important than just weapons or soldiers. They had been working on a message. The first wave of human forces launched into space, the ships streaking across the heavens with surprising speed. These were not the slow, lumbering vessels that Exarathians had anticipated. They were fast, agile, and equipped with technology that the Empire had never seen before. The UTC had spent years perfecting their technology, hiding it from the Empire's spies. Valzeth watched the Earth ships approach, his expression unreadable. The galaxy believed the Exarathian Empire was unstoppable. But as the first human ships closed in on his fleet, something strange happened. The Exarathian fleet slowed, hesitated. Something in the way the human ships moved caused a ripple of uncertainty throughout the Empire's ranks. Was it a trick? Had Earth developed something powerful enough to challenge them? Back on Earth, General Edwards watched from the command center. Her heart raced, but her mind was clear. "It's working," she whispered to herself. The first phase of the plan was a success. The humans had shown the Empire they were not helpless. They had shown the galaxy that Earth would not fall quietly. But the real battle had yet to begin. As Earth's ships closed in on the Exarathian fleet, the tension in space was palpable. The Empire's warships were massive, their advanced weaponry ready to unleash destruction. Yet, as they faced the humans' new fleet, there was a sense of hesitation in the air. The Exarathians had never expected this kind of resistance. General Maria Edwards stood in the command room of the Terra Nova, one of Earth's most powerful ships, watching the battle unfold. Her heart raced, but her mind stayed calm. This was the moment she had prepared for, the moment when Earth would show the universe that they were not to be underestimated. "Engage at maximum speed." Edwards' voice was steady as she gave the order, and the Terra Nova surged forward with astonishing speed, far faster than the Exarathians had anticipated. Earth's ships had been designed with cutting-edge technology, powered by engines that could outpace even the Empire's most advanced vessels. The first shots were fired. A bright, blinding flash of light erupted from the Terra Nova as its powerful energy weapons struck the nearest Exarathian ship. The Indomitable, the flagship of the Empire, was still in position, watching the battle unfold. Emperor Valzeth's face darkened as he saw the first strike land. He had expected to destroy the humans in seconds. Instead, they were fighting back with unexpected ferocity. "Their ships, they're moving faster than we anticipated," one of the Exarathian officers reported, eyes wide with shock. The Indomitable fired back, but the humans dodged easily, their ships weaving and darting through space with incredible agility. General Edwards watched the chaos on her screen, her eyes sharp. This was exactly what she had hoped for. The Exarathians thought they could intimidate Earth with their size and power, but they hadn't counted on human ingenuity. Earth's fleet was smaller, yes, but it was built to be swift, precise, and unpredictable. The battle was fierce. Bright lasers and plasma blasts lit up the dark void of space. The sound of weapons charging, the hum of engines, and the crackle of energy shields filled the air inside the Terra Nova. Edwards could feel the ship shudder as enemy blasts hit their shields, but they held strong. Humanity had designed these ships to withstand far more than the Exarathians could throw at them. On the Exarathian flagship, Valzeth paced back and forth, his mind racing. He had underestimated Earth, and now, the humans were making them pay for it. He knew it was only a matter of time before his fleet overwhelmed Earth's forces, but for the first time, he wasn't so sure. "Order the fleet to push forward. We must crush them now before they gain the upper hand." Valzeth's voice was cold, but there was a hint of uncertainty in it. As his command was carried out, the Exarathian fleet advanced. But Earth's ships didn't retreat. Instead, they came together in perfect formation, their weapons firing in synchronized bursts. Each shot was calculated, precise, and deadly. The Exarathians' heavy, lumbering warships couldn't keep up with the agility of Earth's ships. "This is impossible," a Exarathian officer muttered, watching in disbelief as his own ships were picked off one by one. "How are they doing this?" On the Terra Nova, General Edwards watched the enemy fleet begin to falter. One by one, The Exarathian ships fell behind, unable to keep pace with the human fleet. Earth's tactics were paying off. The humans had become the hunters, and the Empire's fleet, once so sure of its victory, was now on the defensive. "Keep pushing forward," Edwards ordered, her voice calm but firm. "We've got them on the run. Now's our chance to strike harder." As her fleet moved deeper into the battle, the Exarathian fleet began to retreat. They were no longer the unstoppable force they had been moments before. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had forced the Empire to back off. The Exarathians had never faced an enemy like this. On the Indomitable, Valzeth clenched his fists. He could feel the tide turning. His fleet was being pushed back by the unexpected power of the humans, and he knew he couldn't let that continue. The stakes had just gotten much higher. "They're retreating," one of the Exarathian officers reported. "The humans have outmaneuvered us." Valzeth's face twisted into a snarl. "No, we will not be defeated by these creatures." He slammed his fist onto the control panel, his anger boiling over. "Prepare the second wave. We will break them before they think they've won." But deep inside the Terra Nova, General Edwards knew they had made their mark. The first clash was over, and humanity had proven something to the galaxy. It was not to be taken lightly. The humans weren't finished yet, but they had sent a clear message. Earth would not surrender. Earth would fight to the last breath. As the battle continued to rage in the depths of space, Earth's fleet, though battered, had one thing that Exarathians didn't: hope. And in the end, that could make all the difference. The battle in space raged on, but the Exarathians were not prepared to accept defeat so easily. They had underestimated Earth's strength, and now, with their retreating fleet, they were forced to regroup. Emperor Valzeth paced on the bridge of the Indomitable, his mind filled with rage and determination. He had underestimated the humans, but he would not make the same mistake again. "We will show them what the Empire is capable of." His voice was firm, his eyes blazing with anger. He turned to his commanders. "Prepare the second wave. We will crush these humans. They are nothing but insects before the might of the Empire." The Exarathians had already suffered losses, but they were not a race to be easily defeated. Their ships were vast and powerful, designed to conquer, not to retreat. As the second wave of the fleet advanced, their weapons fired in unison, creating a wall of energy that rippled through space toward Earth's forces. On the Terra Nova, General Maria Edwards watched as the Exarathian fleet regrouped. Her eyes narrowed. She had expected this. The Empire would not give up without a fight, but she was ready. The human fleet had proven its strength, but now they had to be even smarter. The first victory had been a surprise, but it was just the beginning. "We've held them off, but we need to prepare for the next wave." Edwards spoke to her officers, her voice steady. "They won't be caught off guard this time. We need to use their arrogance against them." The human fleet had taken a beating during the first clash, but it had also gained valuable experience. Earth's ships were faster and more agile than the Exarathian vessels, and the humans knew how to use their environment to their advantage. The battle had taught them many lessons, and now they would put them into action. The second wave of Exarathian ships surged forward, their enormous forms filling the sky. Earth's fleet took position, waiting. General Edwards knew the Exarathians would strike hard, but she had one advantage. She knew how to outthink her enemy. "Hold steady," she ordered, her voice calm. "When they move into range, we'll strike hard and fast. They'll think we're vulnerable, but we'll show them otherwise." As the Exarathian ships advanced, they opened fire, expecting to overwhelm Earth's fleet. The blasts from their weapons lit up the darkness of space, but the humans were ready. The Terra Nova and other Earth ships darted out of the way, avoiding the blasts with incredible speed. The Exarathian ships, slow and heavy, were unable to adjust in time. Then, with a precise maneuver, the human ships returned fire. Lasers and missiles flew from the human fleet, striking the Exarathian vessels with pinpoint accuracy. The Exarathians had expected to wipe out Earth's fleet, but instead, they were now facing a well-coordinated counterattack. "They're faster than we thought," a Exarathian officer said in shock. "They're dodging our shots and hitting us before we can react." Valzeth's face tightened with frustration. The humans were proving to be a far more formidable opponent than he had ever imagined. But he was not one to retreat. "Not yet. Press the attack. We will crush them." But the human fleet wasn't backing down. They were using every trick they had learned in the previous battle. They darted around the Exarathian ships, striking at weak points, and then disappearing before the enemy could retaliate. The Exarathians' weapons fired wildly, but they were losing their edge. Inside the Terra Nova, General Edwards watched the battle unfold with a mix of concentration and hope. She could see the cracks forming in the Empire's strategy. The Exarathians had overestimated their own power, and now they were struggling to keep up. "We can do this," Edwards whispered to herself. She knew that this battle wasn't just about winning. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Earth would not bend to the will of the Empire. It would stand tall, no matter the cost. As the battle continued, the Exarathians began to retreat again, this time in a disorganized manner. Their once proud fleet was beginning to falter. Earth's ships pressed forward, and with each passing moment, the Exarathians lost ground. The Empire's pride was slowly being shattered. For the first time, they realized that Earth was not just another easy conquest. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with, and with every battle, the humans were proving it. On the Indomitable, Emperor Valzeth could feel his control slipping away. His ships were retreating, and his commanders were growing anxious. He had expected Earth to fall in a matter of days, but now the humans were showing no signs of surrender. "They will regret this," Valzeth muttered under his breath, staring at the Earth fleet in disbelief. "We will make them regret this." As Earth's fleet moved forward, the Exarathian forces began to scatter. The humans had shown that they were not just fighters. They were survivors. And in that moment, they had made their message clear. Earth would never give up. General Edwards stood tall on the bridge of the Terra Nova, watching the retreating Exarathian ships. A small, determined smile played at the corners of her lips. The battle wasn't over, but Earth had proven something incredible to the galaxy. Humans were here to stay. The battle between Earth and the Exarathian Empire had taken an unexpected turn. What had started as a series of attacks and retreats had now evolved into something much larger. The Exarathian forces, despite their immense power, had begun to retreat in earnest. The humans, who were supposed to be weak and insignificant, had proven themselves to be formidable opponents. And now, as Earth's fleet continued to push forward, they were not just winning battles, they were beginning to make history. General Maria Edwards stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, her gaze fixed on the swirling chaos of space. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. The Exarathians had underestimated Earth at every turn, and now they were paying the price. She knew that the humans' greatest strength wasn't just their ships, but their resilience. They didn't back down, even in the face of overwhelming odds. "General, the enemy fleet is retreating again," an officer reported, breaking Edwards' concentration. "We've gained control of the area. They're falling back." Edwards nodded slowly, but her mind was already moving ahead. While the victory was important, she knew it wouldn't be enough to stop the Empire. The Exarathians were a proud, ancient race. They didn't surrender easily. They would come back stronger, and Earth needed to be ready for that. "Prepare for a pursuit," Edwards ordered. "We need to make sure they don't regroup. They can't escape." As the human fleet began its pursuit of the retreating Exarathian forces, the tension in space remained thick. Every ship, every soldier, every commander knew that the next battle would be the hardest yet. The Exarathians had learned from their earlier mistakes, and they wouldn't make the same ones again. But Edwards wasn't concerned. She knew that Earth had the upper hand, and now they had something that the Empire didn't: hope. The humans had gained allies in the most unexpected of places, far from the front lines. Another story was unfolding. Across the galaxy, whispers had begun to spread. The Exarathian Empire had made many enemies over the years, and those enemies were watching closely. For centuries, the Empire had oppressed countless civilizations, crushing them under the weight of their power. But now, with the rise of the human resistance, something had changed. One by one, other alien races began to take notice of Earth's courage. The Vantari, a race of skilled engineers who had once been forced into servitude by the Empire, secretly reached out to General Edwards. They offered their technology to the humans, a way to enhance Earth's ships even further. In return, they asked for nothing but the promise that Earth would fight for freedom, not just for themselves, but for every oppressed race across the galaxy. The Vantari were just the first of many. As word spread of Earth's victory, other races, the Talorans, Rokathi, and Zelvrans, began to make contact. Some offered their military support, others provided resources, and still others shared intelligence. The Exarathian Empire, once thought to be unstoppable, now found itself surrounded by enemies. Enemies that were united in their support of Earth. Back on Earth, the news of these new alliances sent waves of hope and determination through the human population. The war was far from over, but humanity was no longer alone in this fight. As Earth's ships grew stronger, so did their resolve. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," General Edwards said to her officers, her voice steady and strong. "We're fighting for all of us, for everyone who's ever been oppressed by the Empire. The galaxy is watching, and it's time we show them what humanity is truly capable of." The battle for Earth was far from over, but now the humans had allies. The Exarathians had thought they could simply crush Earth beneath their heel, but they had underestimated humanity's determination and the power of unity. In the heart of space, Earth's ships sailed forward, their newly acquired allies at their side. The Empire had been dealt a blow, but the fight was only just beginning. The next battle would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. As the Terra Nova led the charge, General Edwards stood at the helm, her mind clear and focused. She had no doubt that the Empire would try to strike back, but this time it would be different. Earth was no longer a lone target. Now it was the center of something far greater, a unified force against the tyranny of the Exarathian Empire. The galaxy had begun to change, and Earth was at the heart of it all. Humanity had not only proven its strength, it had sparked a movement that could change the balance of power in the universe forever. The galaxy had begun to change in ways the Exarathian Empire could never have imagined. The retreat of their fleet, once seen as a minor setback, had quickly turned into something much larger. The human resistance had sparked an unexpected revolution, with alien species across the galaxy rallying behind them. Earth was no longer alone in its fight. It had become the heart of a growing alliance. General Maria Edwards stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, looking at the map of the galaxy spread out before her. The Exarathian Empire had retreated further, but Earth's forces knew that the war was far from over. The Empire was regrouping, gathering new forces, and preparing for the final push to crush humanity and its allies once and for all. "They're coming for us," Edwards said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "The final battle is near. We need to be ready." The alliance had grown stronger with each passing day. The Vantari, Talorans, Zelvrans, and other races had joined forces with Earth, pooling their resources and technology to create a fleet unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Together, they were preparing to face the Exarathians in what would be the ultimate battle for the galaxy's future. The Alliance's ships, sleek and powerful, now patrolled the edge of Earth's space, waiting for the Exarathian Empire to make its move. The humans had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, but now they had something even more powerful: unity. With each race working together, their combined strength was a force the Empire could not ignore. "We've come a long way," Edwards said, as she looked out the window at the stars. But this isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about all of us. The Exarathians, meanwhile, were in turmoil. Emperor Valzeth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, staring out into space. His empire, once unchallenged, was now on the brink of collapse. The human rebellion, along with their new allies, had dealt the empire a series of crushing defeats. Valzeth's pride had been wounded, and now his forces were desperate to reclaim their dominance. "They think they can defeat us," Valzeth muttered to himself, his fists clenched in frustration. "We will show them their place. We will crush their rebellion once and for all." But even as he spoke, Valzeth knew deep down that the Empire's control over the galaxy was slipping. The once feared fleet, filled with arrogance and overconfidence, now found itself facing a much stronger, more determined force. The Exarathian Empire was losing its grip, and Earth was at the center of the struggle. Back on Earth, the final preparations for the battle were underway. General Edwards walked through the command center, giving orders and offering words of encouragement to the officers and soldiers who would soon face the fight of their lives. The atmosphere was tense, but there was also a sense of purpose in the air. Every member of the Alliance knew what was at stake. "We've trained for this moment," Edwards told her officers. "We've fought together. We've learned from each other, and now we will stand together. This is our chance to take back our future." The plan was simple. Earth's forces would take the lead, pushing toward the heart of the Empire's territory. The Alliance would use the element of surprise to hit the Exarathian fleet hard, overwhelming them before they could regroup. It was a risky strategy, but it was their best shot at victory. As the Alliance fleet set out for the heart of Exarathian space, the humans and their allies held their breath. The final battle was imminent. There was no turning back. In the darkness of space, the fleet of the Exarathian Empire waited. The ships were massive, their weapons ready, their shields raised. But there was something different this time. The Exarathians had underestimated their enemies before, but now they were facing a united front, a force that was willing to fight and die together. "Prepare for battle," Emperor Valzeth ordered, his voice cold and calculating. "We will end this rebellion today. The galaxy will bow to us, and nothing will stand in our way." The battle began with a deafening roar. Lasers and missiles filled the space between the two fleets as the forces of Earth and its allies collided with the Exarathian Empire. The once dominant empire found itself under attack from all sides, its ships struggling to hold their ground against the combined might of the Alliance. The Terra Nova led the charge, its weapons firing in rapid succession, striking the Exarathian ships with precision. The human ships, nimble and fast, darted around the slower Exarathian vessels, exploiting their weaknesses. Earth's allies, the Vantari, Talorans, and others, followed suit, joining the fray and overwhelming the enemy with their firepower. For the first time, the Exarathians were on the defensive. Their fleet was being pushed back, and the realization that they might lose this war began to set in. The Empire had no choice but to fight harder, but the Alliance had the advantage. Earth's forces were relentless, and the combined strength of the galaxy's oppressed races was too much for the once mighty Exarathian Empire to handle. "This is it," General Edwards said, her voice steady but filled with excitement. "We're going to win this. We're going to take back the galaxy." As the battle raged on, it was clear that the tide was turning. The Alliance had struck a decisive blow, and the Exarathian Empire was beginning to crumble under the weight of their own arrogance. Earth's victory was within reach. The final battle had reached its peak. The once mighty Exarathian Empire, the galaxy's most feared force, was now on the brink of collapse. The alliance of humans and their new alien allies, forged through blood, sweat, and shared struggles, had proven to be an unstoppable force. The ships of the human fleet, along with those of the Vantari, Talorans, Rokathi, and other allied races, had delivered blow after blow to the Exarathians, pushing them back further into their own territory. The Empire's massive warships, once symbols of fear, now lay broken in space, their once formidable weapons barely functioning. General Maria Edwards stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, watching the battle unfold with a determined expression. The odds had been stacked against them for so long, but now, in the final moments, it was clear that Earth and its allies had turned the tide of history. Victory was within reach, but Edwards knew better than anyone that the war was far from over. The Exarathian forces had one final card to play. General, the Exarathian flagship is making a desperate move. They're retreating into a nearby system. An officer reported urgently. It looks like they're trying to escape. Edwards frowned. She had expected this. The Exarathians, in their pride, would never accept defeat without a fight to the very end. They had their backs against the wall, but their arrogance would never allow them to simply surrender. They would fight until the last ship, until the last soldier, and that's exactly what they intended to do now. "We can't let them escape," Edwards said firmly. "We need to finish this now, before they can regroup. Prepare for pursuit." The fleet of Earth and its allies shifted positions, moving toward the retreating Exarathian flagship. The Indomitable, the largest and most powerful ship in the Exarathian fleet, was their last hope. If it managed to escape, it would rally the remaining forces of the Empire, and the war could continue for much longer. It was up to the humans and their allies to ensure that didn't happen. As the Terra Nova led the pursuit, Edwards felt a weight settle on her shoulders. This wasn't just a battle for Earth's survival anymore. This was a battle for the future of the galaxy. The Exarathian Empire had crushed countless civilizations over the centuries, and now it was up to humanity and its allies to end that reign of terror once and for all. The chase took them deep into the heart of Exarathian space, a region of the galaxy known for its dangerous nebula and treacherous asteroid fields. The Indomitable moved swiftly, its powerful engines pushing it further away from Earth's forces. But the humans had the advantage of speed and maneuverability. Their ships were smaller, more agile, and could navigate through the tightest of spaces with ease. "We're closing in," one of Edwards' officers reported. "The flagship's shields are weakening. We have a chance." Edwards nodded. They had to act fast. This was their moment. With a sudden burst of speed, the Terra Nova fired its main cannons, striking the Indomitable with a precision blast. The Exarathian flagship rocked under the force of the attack, its shields flaring brightly before they began to flicker and fail. The Alliance fleet pressed forward, coordinating their attacks as they fired on the flagship's vulnerable points. The Vantari ships unleashed their advanced weaponry, while the Taulorans used their speed and agility to flank the flagship, launching precise missiles at its engines. The Indomitable fought back with all the power it had left, but it was clear that the end was near. The once invincible ship began to break apart, its mighty hull cracking under the relentless assault from the united forces of Earth and its allies. "We've done it," one of the officers whispered in awe. "It's over. The flagship is going down." Edwards watched as the Indomitable finally succumbed to the overwhelming power of the Alliance. The great ship, the symbol of the Exarathian Empire's might, exploded in a brilliant burst of light. The battle was over. For a moment, there was silence in space. The sounds of laser fire and explosions ceased. The Exarathian fleet, without its flagship, began to break apart, retreating into disarray. The humans and their allies had won. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. The Exarathian Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, had been defeated. The final remnants of their fleet were scattered, and their empire crumbled. The galaxy would no longer live in fear of the Exarathians. A new era had begun. General Edwards stood at the helm of the Terra Nova, looking out into the vastness of space. She knew that this victory was not just about Earth. It was about every civilization that had suffered under the Empire's tyranny. It was about every race that had been oppressed and silenced. Today, humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. They had united the galaxy's oppressed races and fought for their freedom. "This is just the beginning," Edward said quietly, a smile playing on her lips. "We've won the battle, but now it's time to rebuild. We have a galaxy to save." And with that, the fleet turned toward Earth. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, hope shone brightly in the hearts of all. The galaxy was free, and humanity had played a key role in making that happen. The dawn of a new era had begun.